The ship slid out from the dark side of the moon. It was 9 kilometers long, built from dull iron, and completely silent. Admiral Deathworlders stood on the bridge of his flagship. The warning lights washed his bronze scales in red. His main console flashed a single word from the human distress call: anything. He had brought 15 capital ships to answer that call. He had planned to conquer the system by the end of the day. Now, the moon's shadow peeled back and the trap closed. No sirens, no battle lines, no orders to fire. Just a sudden, absolute lock on his fleet's navigation controls. You want to know how a rescue mission became a cage? The answer took 300 years to build. 72 hours earlier, the galactic conquered chamber smelled of ozone and recycled air. The vote on the high table was 412-7. The 7 dissenting votes were ignored. Archivist Vex Thaler stood by the lower podium. She was a Realoi, standing barely a meter tall. She raised her hand to pause the vote. She pulled up the historical data on her pad. The human system has been silent for 3 centuries, Thaler said. Her voice was soft. They are a Category 7 Deathworld. They do not ask for help. The human signal had been playing on a loop across the network. We are overrun. Send anything. The Conquered had heard calls like this before. The Lament Protocol had been triggered 347 times in galactic history. Every single time, the galaxy sent rescue ships. Every single time, a dying world was saved, fed, and brought into the fold. Deathworlders took the job. The Vorkai Dominion liked to rescue planets. It was the fastest way to conquer them. His chastening wing fleet formed up at the edge of the sector and crossed into the Sol system. They brought 300,000 ground troops. They packed their cargo holds with dropships instead of food supplies. They planned to land, secure the human cities, declare martial law, and never leave. Ambassador Kale Voss sat in the Lunar Control Center. He was 47 years old. His left hand carried deep white scars from a mining cave-in when he was 19. He held a chipped ceramic mug. His daughter had made it when she was 7. The tea inside was cold. He looked at the main screen. The Vorkai fleet was 3 hours away from Earth orbit. They were moving fast. Down the hall, Corporal Jake Morrison watched the tracking data. He rubbed the smooth steel dog tags at his chest. It was a nervous habit. The tags clinked against his armor. They are dropping subspace anchors, Morrison said. He tapped his console to route the telemetry to the main desk. They are locking their main guns onto the Mars terraforming stations. Just a show of force. They want us to know they can hit us. Good, Voss said. He took a sip from the chipped mug. Let them lock on. Let them feel strong. Do not raise the planetary shields. Make the house look completely empty. Route all local traffic to the dark side of Mars. Traffic routed, Morrison confirmed. The lane is clear. Deathworlders stood on his bridge. He expected chaos. He expected burning cities and scattered defense grids. He wanted an enemy to fight so he could claim the space as his prize and report a hard-won victory to the conquered. Instead, Earth was quiet. The cities glowed with clean white light. There was no smoke in the atmosphere. There were no enemy ships in the void. Just the distress signal, playing on an empty loop. Where is the threat? Deathworlders asked. He paced the length of the command deck. His communications officer, Lieutenant Beekson, checked the sensors again. There is no threat, Admiral. The system is empty. The planetary defense network is offline. We have a clear path to the surface. Beekson paused. He looked closely at his data feed. Admiral, the distress signal carries a heavy data package. It is asking for a direct handshake with our navigation computers. Accept it, Deathworlders ordered. It is highly unusual, Beekson warned. It reads like a legal framework, not a beacon. I said accept it, Deathworlders snapped. Open a channel. I want to speak to their leader. Put the demand for their surrender into the rescue package. Tell them we are taking over. Beekson executed the command. The handshake completed. The main screen flickered. Ambassador Voss appeared. He wore a gray suit. He did not look scared. He looked like a man who was done waiting. "Admiral Kor," Voss said, "welcome to Sol. You made good time." "Where is your enemy, Ambassador?" Drueth asked. He smiled. "We brought the help you asked for. Drop your remaining orbital platforms. We will take control of the surface immediately." "You misunderstand," Voss said. He set his mug down on the metal desk. "We are overrun by applicants." Drueth frowned. "Explain yourself. We are here to answer your plea. Lower your defenses or we will lower them for you." Voss pressed a single green button on his desk. He did not break eye contact. The lunar dark side opened. The rock itself split apart as massive hangar doors rolled back. The Shepherd slid into the light. It was a dreadnought. It was bigger than the Vorkai flagship. It had a crew of 42,000. Its main gun ran the entire length of the hull. It had fired exactly one time at a dead star. The star did not survive. Drueth gripped the edge of his command table. His scales stood up on edge. "Ambassador, if you fire that weapon, the Conquered will burn your world to ash." "We are not going to fire," Voss said. "We do not need to." A new broadcast hit the Vorkai fleet. It was a legal code. Article 14 of the Veyron Accord flashed across every screen on Drueth's bridge. It was the oldest law in the Conquered. It stated that any military force entering a sovereign system under diplomatic cover with hostile intent was automatically reclassified as an administrative anomaly. The Vorkai ships legally became abandoned property. The Conquered network instantly stripped their diplomatic shielding. Their transponders went dead. "Override the helm," Drueth shouted. "Pull us out, spin up the main drives and target the dreadnought." "I can't," Beekson said. His hands flew across his console. "Our navigation drives are locked. Our targeting computers are offline. They used the distress signal handshake to rewrite our core systems when we accepted the channel." Drueth turned to his tactical officer. "Deploy the ground troops. Have them board the drop ships and manually override the external locks." The tactical officer shook his head. "The drop bays are sealed. The system does not recognize my command codes." Below them, the lunar surface cracked again. The dust billowed out in massive gray clouds. Thousands of flat, gray drones rose from the craters. They were 300 years old. They had no weapons. They had only gravity tethers. The drones swarmed the 15 Vorkai capital ships. They moved in perfect unison. They latched onto the hulls with magnetic locks. Drueth watched his tactical screens turn red. The drones did not cut the armor. They did not board the ships. They simply grabbed them and pulled. They moved the capital ships like heavy furniture. They dragged them out of their aggressive attack formation and pulled them into a tight, helpless ring around the moon. The ship engines burned, but the gravity tethers held them fast. The 300,000 Vorkai ground troops sat in their drop bays. They were armed for total war. They had their rifles loaded. They had nothing to shoot at. They were boxed in. The trap was completely physical and completely bloodless. Drueth Kor fell back into his command chair. His fleet was paralyzed. His troops were stranded. His grand conquest was over before a single shot was fired. He stared at the screen. Ambassador Voss was still there. The human had not moved. "You sent a distress call," Drueth whispered. His voice was raw. "You told the galaxy to send anything. You broke the law." "The word anything is a legal category," Voss said. "It covers any response, including deterrent assets. You came here to take our world. We used your own laws to take your fleet." Voss leaned forward. The scars on his hand caught the light from the console. He transmitted his final message on the open galactic channel. It was 7 words long. "We didn't ask for help. We asked for witnesses." Voss cut the feed. The screen went black. Drueth sat in the silence of his bridge. He looked at the drones holding his ships in place. He looked at the giant gun of the shepherd, aimed directly at his chest. He realized the truth. The human distress call was never a question, it was a mirror. For 300 years, the galaxy had looked into that mirror and seen its own kindness. The Vorkai had looked into it and seen weakness. They were the first to fail the test. They arrived, they surrounded, they claimed. And now they were prisoners of their own greed. Deep in the conquered core worlds, Vex Thaler sat in her archive. She was 312 years old. She pulled up the original text of the Lament Protocol on her terminal. She had to know how a Category 7 Deathworld had stolen a fleet. She scrolled down to page 347 of the treaty. There was a tiny footnote at the bottom. A human diplomat had added it 3 centuries ago, right before Earth went silent. The note defined the word anything as a complete transfer of power to the host system. They had built the protocol. They had set the trap. Then they had waited in the dark for someone to try and take advantage of them. She forwarded the file directly to the High Council. The Vorkai Dominion had just handed over its entire military strength to humanity. Back on the lunar station, the work was done. Ambassador Voss stood up from his chair. He closed out the active files. He locked the command console. He walked out of the control room without looking back at the screens. He left the chipped ceramic mug on the desk. The tea inside was frozen solid. Corporal Jake Morrison walked to the main console. He unclasped the chain from his neck. He set the steel dog tags down next to the mug. They served as a registry now. They proved a human had been there to see the trap spring. Thaler closed her ledger. She watched the diplomatic map turn red across the Vorkai sectors. The galaxy had been asked 347 times. It had answered 346 times with kindness. The 347th answer was the one that mattered. The dog tags rested on the cold metal, waiting for the next ship.